So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you, wherever you are joining us from. My name is Ayan Banerjee, and I welcome you to my community towards a better world on Thinkly, where we'll be talking on a very important and often overlooked topic in the growing up years of a child, and something that can go ahead and leave a lasting and damaging effect, not only on the child when they grow up, but also on society as a whole. Today's show is relevant for you, regardless of whether you are a parent, a student, a teacher, or just another responsible citizen. Yes, I'm talking about bullying, a subject that I am very serious about. I have a very personal reason for this because as a parent, I had failed to realize the adverse effect that bullying had on my little girl when she was growing up in India because I dismissed it to be her lack of social skills. How wrong was I? This show is just a small attempt to make amends for it. At the end of the show, I'll also try to invite my daughter Apurva to share her experience with us and how she overcame bullying to become a tough young lady today. We'll also be keeping the last few minutes for Q&A for readers or for listeners. I'm sorry, beg your pardon. But without any further ado, let me introduce our guest speaker for today, the amazing Anoushka Jolly. Anoushka Jolly is a distinguished teenager who has made significant contributions in the field of child welfare and mental health in India. She is the Pradhan Mantri Rashtriya Bal Puraskar winner, which is bestowed by the Honorable Prime Minister of India and is the highest civilian honor that any child in India can get. In addition to her remarkable achievements, she is the creative mind behind the anti-bullying squad and the innovative Kavach App designed to support adolescent mental health. Her passion for empowering young people and addressing critical issues such as bullying and mental well-being has garnered widespread acclaim and positively impacted many lives. A visionary student herself, Anoushka's incredible journey started as an entrepreneur at a very young age of 9. And today, at 15 years of age, she is making an impact in the lives of countless young people. She has successfully secured funding for a social enterprise Kavach during the very first season of Shark Tank India, where she was the youngest winner of the competition. Recently, she was appointed by HarperCollins Publishers as the brand ambassador for a new well-being series aimed at school children and educators. Anoushka was also invited to speak at the International IB Global Conference 2024 in South Korea. So Anoushka, welcome to the show and thanks for coming and thanks for taking time for us. Let's start by hearing from you on how you got started on your mission. Tell us your story, Anoushka.
First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's a really lovely thing that you're doing. And it's wonderful that we're finally talking about bullying and we're recognizing how important it is. So I actually started in third grade. I experienced bullying myself when I was only about 8 years old. And this was as a result of me and my best friends. Two of my friends who I considered closest to me, they began to kind of say mean things to me. They would torment me, make fun of my curly hair and dark skin, and they would constantly make these comments about my appearance and my personality. And that kind of really started affecting my self-esteem. So it started with these sort of jokes that were aimed at making me feel bad. And because I was so small, I didn't realize exactly what kind of effect those so-called jokes would have on me. And that started continuing. They started isolating me. They would say things like, I'm not your friend. And when I look back, it might seem a little trivial, but for a third grader whose entire life revolves around two friends and a classroom, someone who's had very limited experience, for them it can be a life and death situation for like your only social life to completely abandon you. So I started feeling very bad about myself. I remember going home and crying almost every single day. And I used to be a very kind of loud and happy girl. As my name suggests, I was very jolly. But after getting bullied, I saw a sudden change in myself where I would stop talking to people and I just immersed myself in studies. I wouldn't really open up, but I was very shy. I would find myself apologizing for things that I really haven't done. And it took a huge toll on me as a person. And this kept going on for months and months. After a year, there was one particular incident where these two girls decided to publicly humiliate me in front of the whole class. And I just remember feeling, I ran to the washroom and I practically spent like 2 hours in there, refusing to come out. And I just felt so weak and powerless in that moment. It's not something that, it's a feeling that I can't really put into words, because not only was I really, really young, but I also really trusted these girls, and they completely abandoned that and betrayed me by treating me that way. And so that was the day I, after like it had gone on for a year, I went home and I talked to my parents about it. Finally, I told them exactly what was going on. And of course, they had also kind of seen this change in me. They were also trying to figure out what was happening, but they didn't exactly know what was going on and what they should do. And when I finally opened up to them about what was happening, they told me to do something very simple. They said that the next time, they try to ask you to do something or threaten you, you just kind of stand your ground. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to be overly kind. You just have to stand your ground and tell them. And so, what I really liked about my parents and what the advice that they gave me was that they didn't kind of want to fight my battles for me. They didn't say that, okay, she's bullying you, I will go talk to the parent, I will go talk to the teacher, and I will sort it out. Whereas they could have easily done that thing. They could have, they could have done it. Any parent can really. But what they decided to do instead was empower me with the kind of knowledge and strength to go and fight that issue myself. And while it was always an option for me to talk to a counselor and a teacher, and I ended up talking to a counselor, after talking to my school's counselor after I stood up to them, it was very, very empowering, and it was very, it kind of gave me a lot of confidence to go and stand up for myself. And so the next morning, it was breakfast time, and every day it was kind of a routine where I would take these girls their plates and I would drop them in the sink. They would like make me keep their plates, they would make me tie their shoelaces. And so I picked up the plates and I was heading to the sink. But then midway, I turned around and I went back. I handed everybody their plates and I said, let's keep our plates together. So while it was only 5 words, it was something that fully changed the way that what was happening. It fully changed my life, really. And I was able to get out of it. I was able to stand my ground. I made better friends. I left them behind. Luckily, by that time, we were also in different classes because like my section changed. So that was also great for me because I was able to make a lot of new friends that were obviously better to me. And so I finally got out of it. I got out of this experience, but I would still think about it pretty often, in the sense that I would think about how I was only able to get out of it because I have a very strong support system with my counselors and my parents. But a lot of kids around me didn't have that. They didn't even have supportive parents, despite growing up in such a school that is very like vocal about these issues. They would still happen because there wasn't much awareness and education about bullying and what it really is. And so I decided I want to do something about it. I am gonna like start a blog about it because I'm very fond of writing, and I decided I'm just gonna write about my experience and share other people's experiences, maybe research. And so I started a blog online taking my dad's help, and it was called Anti-Bullying Squad. That was kind of the beginning of where it all started. After that, I started going to schools and I started taking anti-bullying sessions with students. So what I would do is go to schools, I would talk to students, like maybe 20, 40 students at a time, show them a presentation, do activities with them, and kind of spread awareness about bullying and help them understand exactly what it is. Now, after that, this was going on. I was in like fifth or sixth grade, and then the pandemic came. So I had to shift all of my sessions online. And so I started doing these online sessions with schools and NGOs as well, from across India, because of course it was online, it wasn't limited to your location. And this was great for me because I was able to talk to a lot more kids and reach out to a lot more people at once. So I decided that, technology is something that I'll always keep a part of my approach when I'm trying to come up with something new, because it's definitely going to help me access a lot more people. And I kept this going. I then created an online program called Bullying Deep Dive. So after like a couple years of research and taking sessions, I kind of had this repository of knowledge about bullying. And I also obviously wanted to find out more, and I would constantly do this research. So I decided that I would make an online course or like a program which somebody can take, and they will become kind of certified in recognizing signs of bullying, and they pretty much become like somewhat an expert on the bullying topic. So I started researching on that. I made that course. It's a 1 hour self-paced program, and you have questions to check your knowledge. And that kind of was great for me because it helped me reach a lot of people I wouldn't otherwise reach. So before this, I would only kind of talk to students. But after this program, I also made modules for like parents, for schools and educators. And when I started kind of spreading awareness about bullying to them, that was very, very helpful. That opened up an audience for me. And I saw that a lot of educators and parents actually do want to do something about bullying, but because they don't have any like source of knowledge, they don't have any place they can go to, it's very difficult to take action. Plus, it's a very new problem as well. And so I kept on kind of doing that, spreading awareness about my course as well as taking sessions. And after about 4 years, or I think, yeah, 4 years in 2021, I started thinking about the idea of bullying and why it kind of happens so much. And I came to the conclusion that bullying is so prominent because it's not reported on time. If there was a mechanism that would help these victims report bullying, that would help them be anonymous and seek help, that would be a great, very like empowering option for them. And so I created Kavach, which was an anonymous bullying reporting app, and these kids used it to report bullying. The counselor could see these reported incidents and take action on it. And that kind of experience also taught me how to make an app, how to do like, it was a very large scale project, how to collaborate with a lot of other people. So it was great in that sense. But when I actually took it out to schools, there was a completely different perception of what I thought, and what they kind of saw by using the app. And I noticed that there was a lot more attention on the app. There was also a reporting option, and there was also an option where you could actually watch the online course Bullying Deep Dive. And I saw that there was a lot more intention, and kind of people were more drawn to the course, to like the education awareness aspect of it, more than the reporting aspect of it. And a lot of schools would come to me with the feedback that like, this is good for us, but like, we're not able to prevent the problem. We don't want bullying to happen. Like, we do have measures in place where we can stop the bullying once we see it, but how do we like not like prevent bullying? And secondly, they also said that apart from bullying, there are a lot of other adolescent issues that we're really struggling with, related to adolescent mental health. A lot of it is interlinked to bullying, like aggression and, like not being able to manage your emotions. But all of those topics, we don't really know how to handle that. So if you could make something that could solve those problems for us, that would be definitely more helpful than the bullying reporting option. So I went back and I started doing some more research and worked on like a second version of Kavach. And then I came up with Kavach 2.0, which is the second version of the app, and it caters to bullying and other adolescent issues as well. So the idea is, on the Kavach app, there is content and there is community. So content is in the form of videos, short stories, audios, articles, blogs. All of this content has been written by adolescents. So I have a team of adolescents who are IB students, CBSE students, and they are from countries across the world: India, Pakistan, Nigeria, US, UK, Denmark. And they have been kind of working with me to create this content. We have brainstormed topics about adolescent issues like exam stress, like bullying, like loneliness, low self esteem, all of these issues that are not like mental health issues. They're not like depression or anxiety, but they actually form the base or the cause of these mental health issues. If you have continuous exam stress, and if you don't control it on time, ultimately it seeps into like anxiety and depression. So Kavach, as an app, aims to empower adolescents with the knowledge and resources to tackle their own problems head on. Because when I was getting bullied, what helped me um, was not somebody solving my problem for me, rather somebody empowering me with the confidence, trust, and knowledge to be able to go out there and tackle my problem. And keeping that in mind, I created Kavach, which obviously is by adolescents for adolescents. So all the content is very relevant, very well thought out, very action oriented. So the feedback we've received is that adolescents really like what's being shared on the content. And then, of course, apart from the content, there's the community where you can join specific communities on certain issues and topics. Like there'll be one community only about exam stress, there'll be one community only about sexuality. So you can join those specific communities and talk to other adolescents about that issue and kind of feel more accompanied in your struggles, share strategies. Of course, these communities are moderated, so you can like make sure there's no like misinformation and disinformation. That's also very important. As of now, on the Kavach app, we've created the content option, and we're looking to launch the community option also very soon. So right now, we've done a few test trials, and the community spaces have been very, they've thrived quite a bit. I took inspiration from Discord servers in from because of that. I feel like when you're very stressed, the first thing I do as an adolescent is try to find people who might be going through the same thing. So having a community on Kavach where I can discuss my issues and my struggles would be very, very helpful. And so that's how Kavach came about. Yeah, and that's my journey so far.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think it's been an incredible journey, Anushka, and it is so impressive. And I really love the way you articulated the entire thing in such a short span of time, because it's a huge journey. So you said many things here, and there are many takeaways for everyone. Whether like I said in the beginning, whether you're a parent, whether you're a teacher, an educator, or a student yourself, or just another responsible citizen, because right from the way where you mentioned that your parents, instead of intervening, they empowered you, and that one incident of turning around and saying no, that changed your entire journey. So that's so important for other children to know, and other parents to know as well, that just going and intervening in your child's life may not be the right way to solve the problems, but how you empower them. And then the way that the other good thing which I really loved about it was the way you pivoted and you tweaked your approach with feedback, and that's how you came up with Kavach 2.2, and which is a very good approach, because it is a very much more holistic, I think, approach towards solving all the adolescent problems instead of just bullying, because bullying could be one part of it, but there are other things which may be interrelated, like you rightly said. And this brings me see, as I said in the beginning, this can turn into a very big social issue, not just for a child who gets bullied, and it can leave a lasting and damaging impact on the child's own life as the child grows up. But it can also have another kind of a damaging effect on a child when they turn into bullies. For example, the two friends you spoke about. So there are countless such children around who are not checked, And I know this because my daughter's example, I said, when we went to Delhi, we were not very conversant with the Delhi kind of, and she went to one of the best schools in Delhi. So it's not that the school we sent her to a bad school. It is probably the number one school in Delhi even today. And in that school, she faced bullying. And I think there are kids like that who are unchecked, and they can turn into a menaces, and for no fault of their own, probably because they were not checked, they turn into somebody. We just had an incident in India which is very much in the headlines now, like drunken driving and somebody running over people and killing them in road accidents. And these are all, I think, offshoots of unchecked bullying at a certain stage, where parents should have intervened. And maybe, the society could have had one wrong citizen less, I would say. So you had a very interesting journey. So what did you learn about human nature and kids upbringing at home, that gets them that gets them bullied, or that turns them into bullies? So what's your take on it from your research, Anoushka?
So, from my research, there are three spheres that influence bullying in teenagers and children. The first would be personality. This would be like inborn features, like if you have sensitivity or temper. And these can also be features that are shaped by environment or disorders or diseases. Then there's the home environment sphere, which is what the home environment is like in your family. How do your parents talk to each other? What's your relationship with your sibling? What is like the general environment in your house, and how you all
Do you have a sibling? I'm sorry, I intervened you, interrupted. Do you have a sibling, or you're the only child?
No, I'm an only child.
Okay, sorry. Oh, go ahead.
And just like how you deal with difficult situations as a family. So, personality sphere, home environment sphere, and school environment sphere, which is your environment at school, how the students interact, how the teachers interact, what you learn, what values are imparted there. And so that's how kind of that determines whether a student becomes a bully or a witness or somebody who gets bullied. So in the home environment sphere, it can be parents' problems like unemployment, like lack of parents' time, where they don't actually give enough time for their child, they don't give enough attention. And so they sort of become very, very reliant on having other people watch them. They want people to constantly look at them, they want to be popular. And it's sort of like them acting out in a way, because for they do not have a functional home environment, they don't have parents who know how to manage their own emotions, therefore they don't have the knowledge to actually, or they don't have the emotional intelligence to manage their own emotions. Now if a child who comes from a dysfunctional family, like if they feel angry, um, they will not go write in their journal, they will not do sports and take out that anger in a constructive way. Instead they will go yell at somebody, they will go bully somebody, because they don't know how to manage their emotions. They think that's the only way, or they're not cognizant of like what effect their actions are having. Secondly, it can also be like the atmosphere in your home. If there's domestic violence, if there's a lack of empathy between family members, if there's a lack of connection, all of that just teaches you the wrong thing. And so, because of course parents lead by example, you see what you see and then you implement that in your real life. Some kids may see violence and they think, I don't want to be this, I will choose not to do this, and I will be kind to other people. But some kids don't have that. They see what they learn, and they see violence, that means they have to be violent, so they go to school and they act the same way. They are violent with their peers and with the students around them. Then of course, lack of parenting skills, which I think is probably the most common one in what I've seen, especially in India. So either parents are really, really clean and they let their children get away with anything. They don't have any like negative reinforcement or positive reinforcement measures. They're overprotective. They accept violent behavior. They deny the child has done anything wrong in situations. And either that, or they are really, really strict. They're like dictatorial. They don't let their child have independence and experience things. And like, just as an example, I saw somewhere the other day that strict parents raise the sneakiest children, because if you don't have an understanding of independence and space and boundaries with your children, they will not be able to understand that. They will not implement that in their life, and they will start, doing wrong things or relying on wrong things and disrespecting other people. And then comes the school environment, which is if the school is accepting bad behavior, if they're just letting things pass, like if somebody's making fun of a classmate or not focusing in class, letting it pass, or even letting stealing, beating somebody, all of that, letting that pass is also accepting bad behavior. Now, what a lot of parents and kids think is that if the school is like, they are, of course, if somebody has like beaten somebody up or they're stealing something, the school will take action, like 100%. Most schools take that action. But what schools don't understand is the action they take might not be effective. Let me give you an example. In Delhi, there's a lot of instances of like aggression, especially substance abuse. That happens a lot in schools in Delhi. Now, there'll be a kid who will be caught vaping in the washroom. The teacher finds him. He goes to the principal's office, and the principal scolds him and tells them, you're suspended for 3 days, and this will go on your record. Now, yes, that is punishment. It does harm their ability to even get into college for future. But you have to understand, a child who is vaping in school does not necessarily care about what's happening on their record. So it doesn't really affect them. It doesn't really tell them or give them a shock or tell them that, like, this is not right, because it just doesn't affect them. They don't care about what's happening on their record. So when I say letting things pass, I'm not saying that like a school is um, not taking action. I mean, they're not taking effective action. They're not really targeting um, or giving the right kind of reinforcement to the child.
And could it also be that it is also, does it also have to do with the soft acts that people are allowed to? So, for example, if a child hits another child and injures the other child, that is something which you can see, which is a very blatant on in your face kind of a thing. But when I mentioned the example of, when my daughter was in school, when, she would go to school, and Delhi, as we all know, has got a lot of show off culture, right? So people love flaunting money and cars, etc. So, when she would, these are soft bullying things, like, a child who is like same like your age, 8 or 9 years of age. A friend asks her, "Where did you go for your holidays?" She says, "I went to visit my grandparents in Calcutta." And they make fun of her, saying that, "Oh, didn't you go to Switzerland? I went to Switzerland, I went to France," etc. So, these kind of things create a stigma in the mind of a child, that probably I don't come from a good enough home, or my parents are not good enough and they can't take me to Switzerland, and my friends have such an awesome life. And then, and they get away with it because they are apparently, they are not breaking any rules. They are just, during a tiffin break, they are just telling something to another child, and that can create a mental burden on the child.
Yeah. And this is the problem with a lot of verbal and relational bullying, that you can't see it, and you can't pin, because it's all very subjective. You can't pinpoint and say, okay, this student deserves to be punished. And so I do think that when we talk about like punishment, it's something that um it's less about punishment, it's more about consequences, I would say. When we view it like that, when we say that, okay, if as a teacher you are kind of privy to some of these conversations, you're privy to what's happening in the classroom, and you're able to pick up on these signs, you're able to pick up on like a student, maybe a student is very participative in class, and all of a sudden they stop talking. You can see that, they might be feeling conscious, they might be feeling shy. So you go up to talk to them and ask them what's happened, and they tell you, and they, after some pushing, after some, um after some conversations, they're able to open up. So as a teacher, or as an adult in that situation, it would not be right to say that this person is at fault and this person is not at fault, because it's all just they are also teenagers and their personalities and thoughts are still forming. So it's up to you to kind of explain, to make that, to convey that idea, instead of saying that you're wrong and you're right, instead of like going up to the person who might be troubling the victim and saying that why did you do this, or like screaming at them, but instead asking them what's going on, like why do you feel the need to flaunt your wealth? Maybe are you feeling like less than? Are your parents having financial problems? What we don't realize is a lot of this comes from projection. So maybe the child that was, flaunting where they went for vacation, maybe their family is literally about to go broke and they're just trying to scramble for any piece of confidence that they can get. So yeah, it's definitely more hidden when it comes to verbal and relational, but for that it's important for parents and teachers to be equipped with that knowledge, to be aware, to pick up on like certain signs, for the counselor to be very involved in the classroom, to have checks, so you can like see the things that you would usually miss, but you do have to spot because you are an educator.
One question I had, Anushka, you said that now you have a team of people from various countries, like you said Pakistan, you said UK, Denmark, US, and some other countries. So this is probably a loaded question, but I wanted to ask this because uh, do you see any cultural how to say cultural angles to it that are as parents, as Indians, as Indian parents, are we doing something wrong in raising our kids? I'll tell you why I'm asking this, because I am living out of India for quite a long time now, and I know a big Indian diaspora, and I see kids who are of Indian origin and who are also of South Asian, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, American origin. And I have seen that the Indian parents are by far, as you mentioned earlier in one of the answers, that they're by far the most overprotective and over intrusive parents. And I think they don't accept that their child can do anything wrong. So the Indian parents will be the ones who will go and fight the most with teachers when their grades are low, unlike parents of other nationalities. Or is that a conception, that is it a misconception in my head?
So I think that for I don't actually, I've never met parents of other countries, so to say. I've never been in that culture, so I wouldn't be able to like compare and contrast. But what I can say, because I have Indian parents myself, I see Indian parents all the time, that there are a lot of faults in our general Indian culture when it comes to aggression and when it comes to the sense of entitlement. That definitely exists. So what I see is, because a parent is not giving their child space, is not setting boundaries. When a child says no, when a child disagrees, they're slapped, they're put into place. That does not send them the right message, right? That does not send them the message of respect. That does not teach them to respect themselves and respect others. And that learning will play into their entire life, whether it's their relationships with their spouses, with their children, with their friends. All of that will kind of show up in a way. And this is when we talk about that whole cycle thing, where like it's the cycle of trauma. As an Indian parent, if you feel like a sense of entitlement, if you feel like you are better or you are more knowledgeable and in a position where you can inflict violence upon your child, that is not a healthy relationship or view to have of yourself. That being said, it is something that really, to some extent, is out of our control, because that's just how society has functioned. That's what we've been taught. But it's important to break the cycle right there and then. So when you see an Indian parent and they are sort of like, they're unable to respect their child, they're unable to take or tolerate any sort of mistake, they set an unattainable standard for their children, and at the same time they refuse to believe that their child can do anything wrong. it is something that really just does not give the right kind of message to the child. And that kind of will reflect a lot of what I've heard, is like a lot of doubts is something, what I've heard is that like gentle parenting does not work on Indian kids, that like you they need to be slapped, they need to be put in their place. How will they learn otherwise? I just think that, like, if we think about it logically, you're telling me that if you talk to your child like a human being, you respect your child's wishes, you teach them that they are an equal, you raise their self-esteem, you empower them, they will not treat you in the same way. I don't think so. I think it's common sense. If you treat somebody with kindness, they will treat you with the same kind of kindness, like in a normal situation in majority of the households. I think that there's a very clear difference between um inflicting violence and providing consequences for somebody's actions. And that is something that Indian parents just don't seem to understand, the difference between that. So if you bully your child, if you slap your child, if you hit your child, if you speak down to your child, what makes you think they won't do the exact same thing to their friends or their spouses or their children? So that's
Uh, no, I think also it's probably a little bit of, if you've read about the tragedy of the commons, that, it's a bit of a competition mentality people have today, especially in a overpopulated country like India, where probably the parents feel that I may teach my child to be gentle, but what if when he or she gets to school and encounters the not so gentle children, and how can they cope with them? It's like the gun laws, right? I can let go of my guns, but the criminals have the guns already with them. So how do I face them? So I think that's where parents try to mistakenly do and toughen their children, which has adverse consequences. And you mentioned in the beginning, like what your parents told you, that you need not go and fight with them, and nor are we going to fight for you, but you can always firmly stand your ground and put it across. I think that's probably the right balance as parents, which we need to walk. I think that's very
yeah.
well said.
It gets lost between like, I've seen so many times where people come up to me and they say, okay, so you're saying I should just be kind all the time, like if I send my child to school and they get beat up and come back, like should
True.
I just tell them not to defend themselves? And I say absolutely not. It's a line. You see, it's very simple. Like the fundamental understanding is that you are a nice person, you are kind hearted, you give people the benefit of the doubt, and you act respectful, which is the bare minimum you can do. But respect is earned. And if somebody treats you in a way that is not nice, you do not have any right to treat them in the same way. If they hit you, you have every right to defend yourself. You have every right to throw a few punches and keep them away, keep them at arm's length. If somebody is acting passive aggressive with you, act like a mirror, do the exact same thing, or don't waste your time and energy on that person. The idea is not to be nice all the time. The idea is to protect your niceness, is to protect your faith, and make sure that you are not, inflicting that upon somebody else while still maintaining your own boundaries and your own self-confidence. That's what it's about. And that's where Indian parents get lost in, like, either they're too nice, and not just Indian parents, I would say all parents, like either they teach their children to be too nice and pushovers, or they're way too tough and generally just mean. So it's about finding that balance.
No, very, very well said. I think protecting your niceness, I think that's a very nice way to put it. I think, thanks for that. So, I have two quick questions. So first is, you got your Shark Tank funding for your Kavach 2.0, or it was 1.0?
It was 1.0.
Okay, and then you built on it. And now I saw that you again got some another international funding from somewhere, right? Recently, a couple of weeks back. Where was it from?
It was so IB, my education board, they have a fund called Global Youth Action Fund. And it's basically a $3,000 limit fund where they award it to students across the globe from IB schools who are working on interesting topics, interesting social issues. And so I pitched Kavach 2.0 to them, and they've given me funding. In fact, I think 5 kids from my school have actually won it, which is wonderful.
Wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful, great. And how was it to win the Honorable Prime Minister's Award at such a young age. How was it getting on the stage with our Prime Minister and getting an award from the President and the Prime Minister both at such a young age?
It was, well, it was ethereal. It was so special. I just think that when I was very nervous before. I was very scared. I when I was like before I met the president and prime minister both, I was very freaked out. But then when I actually got to talk to them, when I actually got to interact with them, they were so like warm and kind that they didn't for a second make you feel like, they are in fact leaders of the country. They just felt like really interesting and intelligent people. So it was very nice. And especially because I don't have a lot of like friends from other states in my school. So a lot of my friends have been either like from other countries or from Delhi. So I met a lot of very interesting people who were all the other awardees. They were like all from different states because I was the only one from Delhi. So I learned a little bit of Telugu, and I was able to like explore all of this culture. It was a very enriching experience. Especially the highlight was definitely talking to and having a conversation with our honorable prime minister about adolescent mental health, because like it's one thing to research about it online, and it's another thing to talk about it with the prime minister of the country. That's a very reliable source. So it was really interesting, and he shared some very kind of important things about mental health stigma and accessibility and all of that.
Very nice. And I think the present rule leaders of the country are have actually been very serious about this. And I think I also saw you with the Honorable Minister Smriti Irani as well, right? It was on the same event, or it was on a different event, for a different event?
So she spent like the full days with us. She would come and she even took us out to eat golgappas. It was really nice. But I met her a couple times after that for Kavach, and she even soft launched Kavach back in like September or something, which was wonderful. So she's been a huge pillar of support with Kavach. She's given her inputs. She's connected me to Niti Aayog as well, and I've been to their like policy kind of think tanks. So it's been exciting.
Very nice, very nice. Congratulations to you. I think you've got the right platforms, and you've been very fortunate that for the good work that you've done, you've got the right exposure, and the right people have known you and recognized you for it. So kudos to you for that. So before we get to the last leg of today's session, you already spoke on coverage. You already spoke on uh, your message for parents and for teachers, and also even for students, how to handle adolescence in general, not just bullying or mental health, any specific compartment, but in general how to handle adolescence. And which is very good, because I think very less work in India has been done in India on this so far. So you are probably a pioneer there, and I would love to see you one day where Malala has gone or where Greta has gone. And that's why I named our caption that. I actually wanted to name it, why call her the next Malala or the next Greta when she can be the first Anoushka. But it was getting too long, so we kind of compressed it. So now what next, Anoushka? You are just 15. You have just given your boards. So what next? Where are you headed?
So for me, I think I've definitely found my passion. This entire experience has opened me to what I want to do in my life, and that is to help people in any way that I can. So I want to continue coverage, that's for sure. And luckily, I have a great team of adolescents. Of my parents are supporting me, and it's a robust organization. So I do have support in that way, that they are helping me every step of the way. And I definitely want to go to college as well. I'm aiming for a great college for my course. I'm looking to study sociology and political science and just learn more about the world and learn about how society functions, what are the flaws, what can we do to change it. Because ultimately, as I get more into mental health, as I get more into social issues in general, the meaningful change comes from systemic change, when you change the systems. if you are able to educate teachers and parents and strengthen the support system around a child, maybe you can prevent so many bullying cases, which wouldn't be the case if it wasn't for systemic change. And so I realized that, and I want to learn more about that. I want to educate myself, and then hopefully make Kavach even bigger. I'm also working on some new things with Kavach, so involving like artificial intelligence and language learning models to support mental health, to understand bullying better, what exactly happens, like what is the psychology of somebody who is bullied and who is bullying. So all of that is something that I'm working on, and I'm really excited to see what's next.
Fantastic, fantastic. And I'm sure you'll go a long way. Somebody with a resume at 15 that you have a long, long way to go. So all the best and all my blessings are with you. And I'm sure every listener of our show today are with you, and they'll be supporting you in your journey ahead. So Anushka, I mentioned in the beginning that I had a very personal reason why, and you must have noticed that I am very fond of the work that you do, and I love supporting someone, a young leader like you. The reason was very personal because, as I said, I had, as a young parent myself, I had probably failed to notice these subtle threads, what bullying can cause to a child. So my daughter, who is now 25, her name is Apurva. She's just finished her master's from the UK with an overall distinction in management. And we were walking a very thin line in her master's. And at that age, so my reason for inviting her is to tell our listeners that bullying doesn't stop at school. It can go ahead till university and even in your life ahead. So let Apurva tell her part of the story. What did she, even though she had recovered from bullying in school and become a tough girl herself, even she faced bullying later in life. So go ahead, Apurva. Why don't you tell your story?
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Anoushka. How are you? I was keenly listening to your story, and I think you have mentioned and captured everything so beautifully. I don't think you have missed a single emotion that somebody who faces bullying goes through. Yeah, so I'll divide my section. I'll keep it short, but I'll divide my section to three parts. I'll briefly run you over my personal experience when I was overseas. Second is some constructive ways to overcome the feeling that you have. And the third thing is a small aspect that I've noticed when you get bullied as somebody in their mid-20s is a thing called unconscious bias. So my personal experience was that I moved to London in January 2023, and everything was fine. Initially, everything was fine. I was super excited to pursue a master's degree. I was really happy about it. But with bullying, I think my experience wasn't one day I came back to my dorm and I was like, oh, this is bad. It was almost a domino effect where things started to pile up, one negative experience after the other negative experience, and then you reach a point where you're like, okay, this is the label that I have to assign. Like, this is not right. If I am facing these sorts of remarks from my classmates, and largely because of the fact that while I am Indian, I grew up outside India. So maybe there was a sense of disconnect that would have taken place. And that sort of cultivated to that extreme where I had to just say no. And I moved out of my dorm. Most of the times I would spend my time alone. I really didn't, I got too scared to the point where I would just sit at my dorm, do my work, mind my own business, and that's it. And I think it was sometime around October or November of last year when I realized this is not the way to live. I cannot do this anymore. And the first step, the constructive things that you can do if you find yourself in those situations, is to talk to a trusted adult. It could be a parent, it could be a counselor, it could be a friend as well. Talk to them, make that safe space for yourself, because don't keep it inside you. I think that can further bottle up into something terrible. So don't do that. I did that. I talked to my parents. I used to FaceTime them and I used to tell them that these are the things that happened. And lo and behold, I finished my course. I came back here and things now it's fine, but the lasting impact will always stay. There will be times when, even if given if I join a new job or if I go do something new, there'll still be that recurring emotion that, oh, I hope this is not like London 2.0. So that's something that you really have to work on yourself. Now, the third thing I wanted to talk about when you are an adult and you're facing these difficult situations is a thing called unconscious bias, where you instantly make a preconceived notion about a person without being fully aware about it. And that could be what happened to me, my observation that is, because while I am from India, I grew up pretty much outside India. Now, the way I look at life, the way I do my daily tasks, I take my decisions, it would look slightly different than somebody who has spent the better half of their life in India. And then these things always have a domino effect. And, they'll always separate you from the friend groups. You may not be invited to the typical, popular group activities because you are always sort of like the outsider. So you get boxed into these different swim lanes. And of course, that's what happened to me. So when you're one step to take as grown-ups is to look into the root cause of this unconscious bias. Like you said, change is always systemic. You should understand, why are we making these comments about somebody who grew up abroad in the first place? Why is our thinking so negative? Why do we have these perceptions? If somebody is not fluent in English, let's say, I've met people who will instantly, say that, oh, they're not fluent in English. They can't talk to us. We can't talk to them. There's this weird, like, it's very divided. This unconscious bias creates a sense of division between groups of people, and this is very prominent for minority groups, especially for women, for members of other the LGBTQ plus people. This is a thing that is very prominent. This happens to people in different forms, and I guess for me, this is what I have observed. And rest all, I think you have covered every point really well. It was really beautiful listening to you. So yeah, that's something that I can tell you.
Thank you. Thanks, Apurva. And I think, I mentioned in the beginning, probably, I couldn't prevent you getting bullied when you were in school, but this is my small gesture I can try to do to make amends for it. So, we have a number of questions here, Anushka. I think, some questions have common patterns. So Swati is asking that, how can parents just instill discipline without being violent? I think, Anushka, you partly answered this already, that you don't need to be violent, and you can still, and I think Swati, she's already, probably your question was before Anushka spoke on this. Juhi is asking, what support or resources do you need, I think, are crucial for young people who want to address social issues and make a difference? And this is again a similar question which Anand has asked, is that, which Meera has asked, that how did you balance your school life with being an entrepreneur and a social activist? So let us probably answer this question first, then we go to the next one.
So first of all, I want to say, Apurva, I think it's really, really brave that you were able to talk about it, especially because it's so recent. For me, it took me years to even start opening up. I just think you're just very brave for that. And I'm sorry you had to go through that, but you're so smart. You're able to even figure out why they did that, which is wonderful. And thank you so much for talking about it. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
And now getting to the question. So I want to address two things. First of all, it's important to note that I do have a lot of support. So in terms of my parents will help me with managing my time. They will help me take on some responsibilities. Like, for example, last month when I had my exams going on, I was not able to give time to Kavach. And so they were happy to kind of hold down the fort and just kind of manage things and keep it slow. Then of course my team, my wonderful team, my tech team, my adolescents, they are all obviously managing their time. They're helping me kind of make this app. It's never ever been a singular effort. Never. It's always, I always have a team of people with me. So when we're taking into account young people making change, you must take into account that they need a team. They need support, whether it comes from their friends or it comes from their parents or their extended family or their mentors or their teachers. That needs to exist. So now that we've cleared that up, I think for the way I structure my life, it's all dependent on time management. and it's all dependent on my prioritization. So for me, my life looks like, for maybe, like, let's say in an academic year, the first 3 months we don't really have much going on because my exams are not near. So my first 3 months I will be very, very active in terms of Kavach. I will be building the app, I will be going to events, I will be talking, or if I have a summer vacation or winter vacation, like right now I have summer vacation, so I have free time to kind of build on and work on Kavach. And as an example, last summer in June and July, from June to October, I was only like primarily working on Kavach because I had time. So my life works in blocks where after I give time to Kavach, there will be a time that I'll give mostly to studies and just like only doing that, and then to Kavach again. Of course, that can look different to different people. So for like some people who might be working on a different cause or might have a different structural kind of arrangement or commitment, they would probably want to give like 1 hour every day to their work and then kind of see where that leads them. But for me, it looks very different. So I balance it in a way that is imbalanced. I'm always prioritizing things, and I take up blocks of like months or weeks where I'm only devoting my time to like one thing with a little bit of something else. So that's how I kind of work on that.
Fantastic. I think, the time management, the working in blocks, I don't think it is at all a disorganized way of doing it. Some of the world's leading thinkers, and I do you know Adam Grant?
Yes, I am aware.
Adam Grant is somebody who is very popular. He's like one of the most sought after academics in the world today, and social scientists. And he works exactly on the same formula, that he teaches full time for a semester. Then there is a semester where he completely disappears and he does his writing work. And then, when he is on his social semester, his door is always open. So he's talking to people, he's getting ideas in, and then he withdraws into it. Very few people can do that. But if you can do it, really, if you've cracked it, it's really a superpower. So fantastic, more power to you. So there are many people who are wishing you so well, and you can read the comments. I'll try to club a few questions which are around the Kavach app. So Sakshi Shetty is saying, how did the Kavach app impact the lives of children in India? Can you share a success story that stands out to you? And then Rajesh is asking you, could you share a memorable moment from your experience on Shark Tank India? So, so yeah, maybe two questions on Kavach. So I think it has reached like 20 million users, or what? How many users do you have now?
It's reached 2 million. So in my work so far, I've impacted 2 million
2
students.
million. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Wow, 2 million.
20,000 is the number of schools that I've been able to reach out to.
20,000 schools, and these are all in urban India, or even rural India also?
Actually, a majority of them are from rural India. So I've done a lot of work with KVs, with like government schools, and there's like so many of them. So that's how I've been able to reach out to them. And then of course I have international schools that I've done a lot of work in, and where I've collaborated with NGOs and I've talked to like underprivileged kids. Like for example, I collaborated with Bramble Network in 2022, and I talked to Nigerian underprivileged students there, and from their different NGOs.
So any memorable moment from your Shark Tank journey? That was a question. That was a question from, I think, Rajesh.
My entire Shark Tank experience is the most memorable thing in my life. Like I can replay it in my head scene by scene because it's just registered in my brain. I have been a Shark Tank fan since I think I was 7 years old. So when I was young, me and my parents used to like watch Shark Tank every single weekday from 9 to 10 p.m. and 10 p.m. was my bedtime. And we used to do this for like years and years, way before Shark Tank India was ever a thing. And so my dad saw an ad of Shark Tank India on the newspaper, and he was like, why don't you apply for this? And I didn't really expect anything out of it. It just sort of happened. I just applied for it. I wasn't even in the age limit for the minimum age for to apply for it. It's 18 plus, and I was, I think, 12 at the time. So it was a shot in the dark, but it was a wonderful, it was life-changing experience, because I had been on a TV set before. I think I was shooting Baiju's Young Genius, which is another show that Network 18 did. And then, but this was my first like
And
reality.
you won that, right? Your Young Genius, CNBC Network 18 Young Genius was something you won, right?
It was they selected 20 kids from across the country. So I was one of them, but it wasn't like a competition or anything. Shark Tank was a proper reality
Competition.
show competition
You got a
kind
funding also.
of.
You also were selected. You were the winner of the Business World 30 under 30, 30 under
Yes,
30.
that
Wow,
was in 2023. Yeah, wonderful.
fantastic.
So
So
in Shark
we are, yeah. So go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry about your
Yeah,
Shark
so
Tank.
I was just saying that it was so actually the first day I remember, we came in and like I think 7 or 8 a.m. and we had to shoot rehearse till 11 p.m. So it was a very, very, very long like working hours. And obviously by the time 11 p.m. came around, I was just like I wanted to go home. I wanted to go to sleep. I was so tired. And this continued for like 2 3 days. Then it was our final shoot on like the last day in the morning, but it was a bunch of things like the working hours. And because I'm not that good at Hindi and my entire pitch was supposed to be in Hindi, so like trying to do that was really fun. And trying to calm myself because I was the most nervous I've ever been before going into the tank. So it was like a lot of fun things.
Super. So, we are almost up on time, but maybe we'll just stretch it by a couple of more minutes. So, there are two questions on bullying itself. So, Nisha is asking you that I'm curious about the girls who bullied you. I hope they apologize to you. More power to you, girl. So, you can choose to answer or not answer. I mean, it's up to you.
No, of course. So, from what I see it, it took me a lot of years to kind of forgive them, to recognize that they were also just children. And while I say I was very young when I experienced it, they were also very, very young. And now that I look back, they didn't really have the right kind of guidance and experiences, the kind of right kind of home environments. So it makes sense why they would do something like that. And they have apologized, and it's not the same anymore. I think when I look back at it, we all were just kids, and I'm glad that while I'm able to grow out of it and make something out of it, they are also able to like recognize their mistake. And yeah, and they're able to like grow as people.
Super. Thank you. So I think, Lakshmi had a question. I think you've already partly answered that for young girls facing bullying, what message or hope of encouragement would you like to share? I think you've kind of covered this when you were answering, but if you want to add anything to it, please go ahead.
So I think for somebody who's getting bullied, what's really important to remember, and something that we always forget when we're getting bullied, is because it's usually a singular experience. Like you are being targeted by a bunch of other people. So it's natural to feel lonely. It's natural to feel like you are the only one, and cut off people from your life, whether it's your parents or your friends or your teachers. Just like putting yourself in a bubble where you don't feel like you're worthy to seek help. But I'm just gonna outright say this, that if I did not have a support system, if I did not gather the courage to go and talk to my parents about it, I would not be here. I would probably still be getting bullied, because I recognized that it was not weak, or um it was right to seek help. I was able to gather that strength. That's the only reason that I'm able to overcome it. So if you are ever in a situation of bullying, it's very, very important to seek help in whatever way you can. If you can't talk to a teacher, talk to your parent. If you can't talk to your parent, talk to a friend. If you can't talk to a friend, reach out to helpline numbers, reach out to NGOs, reach out to me. You can talk to really you have to find the people to talk to if they're not available, but just please reach out to somebody who can help you. This is not something that we can go through alone.
How do people reach out to you if a student wants to reach out to Anoushka? Does he or she reach out to you?
So you can email me. You can. I'll also maybe I'll put my LinkedIn and Instagram in the
Chat
comments or
box.
something.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I
Please
just
do
do it
that.
right after this. And you can reach out to me there. Yeah, Instagram, Gmail, LinkedIn, anything. I'm always online.
Perfect. So that's really helpful, because I think the crux is people need to speak up. I think that's what's very important. So if I need to sum it up, Anoushka, your journey, your incredible journey, one is, of course, hats off and my deepest regards for your parents for bringing up such a brave and such an enterprising young daughter like yourself. So full marks to them as parents. So thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Jolly. And then secondly, my best wishes, and I'm sure all our listeners are also extending their best wishes to you for your journey ahead, and keep doing the great work. And I would really wait for the day when you step up and pick up the Nobel Prize one day for us. So we will wait for that, Anoushka. So more power to you. Thank you. And the reason I wanted you on this platform is that instead of doing a LinkedIn Live or a standard podcast, is because I've got a very deep regard for this platform called Thinkly, and I think I told you. So it's founded by Vivek Saxena and a bunch of people who have now become friends. But this platform is something which is very unique because it's a knowledge app with a difference. It's like it allows you to host content on your own. It allows you to monetize your content if you want, and you can choose to just keep it open for all if you wish. And it also hosts content from the best of the best thinking minds in the world today, in the contemporary world today. And the best part is the communities. You can choose to go in which community you want, instead of having just being bombarded by everything that people put out. So you can actually decide what you want to consume if you are on Thinkly. And this app actually hosts content from over 50 Nobel laureates in the world. So it's not the regular app which is kind of flooding with all fake news and stuff like that, which we see around us. So it is probably something which people from your generation should sign up for also, because it will because I think in today's world, information is not the problem anymore. It is information literacy that's the problem, because we should consume the right information. I think so. Thinkly is the right platform, and we really want more and more people like you, and that's why I call my community that I've created here is called Towards a Better World, because I think that's a little bit we can do in our corner of the world, which can probably, I always feel that your mission in life is to help people to change lives. I'm probably too old to start on a mission now, but my humble mission in life is to leave the world a little better than how I found it when I was your age. So I think my community is a small attempt to do that, and I want to invite more and more important people like you here to share the stories, their inspiring stories, and so that we as Indians can show that our time has come now, and we are not an also ran nation anymore. We are a nation of bright, young, thinking people like you, and we will leave the world a better place than how we found it. So thank you, Anoushka. Thank you all, everyone who joined us. Thank you, Apurva, for joining us on your cameo, and thank you, Thinkly, for hosting us. Thanks a lot, and have a great day. The replay for this will be available on YouTube, and we will share the YouTube link soon. So thanks again, and see you soon on the next community. All the best, Anoushka.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.